So here you see our new project. This is going to be a toy truck wheel, and besides learning how to make this, we're also going to learn how to incorporate something that we make like this into another project later on. So let's get started. From the dashboard, I'm going to create new design. I'm going to start by dragging out a cylinder, and I'm going to shift click on the corner to scale uniformly, and I'm going to make it 60 millimeters. And then I'm going to lower it to be half that, so 30 millimeters high. So this is our wheel. I'm going to change the color so we can see what's going on better. And then I'm going to drag out another cylinder. Now this one is going to be part of the tread, and it needs to be less than half as high as the wheel is. So I'm going to shift click from the corner again to make a uniform scale. I'm going to bring it down to 9 millimeters. I'm going to bring out a sphere, and we want that to be the same size as the other piece, as the cylinder. So I'm going to shift click for a uniform scale and bring that down to 9 millimeters as well. So we have these two objects, and it's not easy to get these two things lined up perfectly straight. And in order for this to work, they do have to be lined up perfectly straight. So here's a new thing. Select both of them by dragging a marquee. That's what that square is called. Dragging a square around both those objects. And then go up to the menu and click on the Adjust button. Choose the Align option, and you'll see the this sort of arrangement of lines and dots appear. These are alignment handles. And so if I want to align something in the center, I click on the center dot, or if I want to align it on the edges, I click on one of the edges. So I'm going to align it on the center in that direction. So there it is, it's lined up. And then I'm going to align it in that direction. Okay, so they're both there. It's just one is completely inside the other, which is fine. We want that cylinder to be halfway up the sphere to be halfway up the cylinder. So I'm going to lower the cylinder down. And exactly half of 9 would be 4.5. But you can see I can't go to 4.5. I can only go to 5 or 4. Well, I'm going to drop it there at 5 for a second. Okay, so it's close, but it's not perfect. The reason it only goes in 1 millimeter increments is because that's what the snap grid down here in the corner is set to. So if you change that to 0.5, then I can snap in 0.5 millimeter increments. And now instead of being at -5, I can bring it up 0.5 millimeters, and now I am exactly lined up. Isn't that cool? So let's group those. And I need to bring this whole thing back up. Actually, I'm going to need to bring it back up until it is 0. So let me scale back here. All right, so now it's right on the work plane along with the wheel. Now I'm going to move this over so that it's overlapping the wheel, and I want it to be just a little bit less than halfway into it. So you can see the point here, see that dot, that's halfway. And I want that dot to be just outside of the wheel. Okay. Where along the wheel doesn't matter. So this is part of the tread, and we're going to cut the tread out of the wheel by making holes from the tread pieces. We're going to have a bunch of tread pieces all around the outside. So how do we do that? First off, we need to know how many tread marks we're going to have. So let's just pick a number. I'm going to say 16. 16 usually works out for these kinds of projects, for the circles. Now, we need to do a little bit of math. So we have a circle, which is 360 degrees, and we have a number 16 treads. Now we already have one, and if we put in 16, then we would end up with 17. And that's not what we want. We want 16. So we have to subtract 1, the one we already have. And so that'll be 15. So we're going to divide 360 by 15, and that gives us 24 degrees. Okay, so we're just going to remember that for a second. Now I'm going to need to duplicate that tread. And once all the changes are saved, I'm going to turn that into a hole. I'm going to shift click on the wheel so that both the hole, tread, and the wheel are selected, and click on group. And once it says that all changes are saved, then we can rotate it. So I'm going to rotate the wheel, and we're going to rotate it 24 degrees. Because that's the number we calculated earlier. So there we have one tread hole. Now it's just a matter of doing that over and over again until we get all the way around. Okay, so now that we have one side done, time to do the other side. So I'm going to select just the wheel and flip it over, which means 180 degrees. Now if I look, what do you know? I'm right there halfway in between. So we will alternate. Now it's just a matter of doing the exact same thing. So duplicating, turning it into a hole, grouping it with the wheel, rotating it 24 degrees, and so on. So let's get that done, and then we'll jump ahead to the end. Okay, so for the last one, we're not going to need it anymore, and I can just turn that one into a hole and group it. And we're done with the treads. Now we're going to add a feature to the top here to make it look cool. And we're going to add a torus. I'm going to use just the regular torus. We don't need the torus thick or anything like that. I'm going to pull that out and drop it down there. I'm going to bring it up close to the top here. Just so I can get a sense of how big it needs to be. I'm going to do a uniform scale by holding down the Shift key. And get it in position. And it needs to be a little bit squat, so I'm going to make it a little bit flatter. Now we have kind of a flat donut. Time to use the line again, because I want that torus lined up right in the middle. And then I'm going to manually drag it down again so that it's a little less than halfway through. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now all I have to do is turn that one into a hole and group it with the wheel. There we go. So we have kind of a cool looking wheel going on there. And I'm going to edit the properties, give it a name. Remember that sharing is caring. Okie dokie. And then what I need to do is save this in such a way that I can reuse it again in another project. So to do that, I'm going to download for 3D printing. So we don't actually need to 3D print this just yet. We're going to save it as an STL file. Okay, so if you look down here in my browser window, it's been saved. Now you wouldn't necessarily bring this into the same document, into the same model, but we are going to load it up just to show you how it's done. So over here on the sidebar, there's an import section. And it says import 2D or 3D shapes. So I'm going to choose a file and go to downloads and look at today's file. So I've got toy truck wheel demo there. So I have it selected. Scale is 100, meaning it's going to come out the same size as it went in. And click the import button. Now here's where it's important to wait and be patient. It takes a while for it to render, meaning it takes a while for it to show up, to appear after you upload it. So I'm going to be patient and wait for it. And wait for it to appear there. It's going to appear right in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way, and we have the imported one and the one we started with. Notice that I can ungroup the one that we built in this document, but this one can't ungroup. It is what it is, but it works just like any shape that you would pull over from the side now. So for instance, you could add a axle to it. And so there we have a wheel with a hole for the axle in it. Which is very nice. We can use this, and now you have a wheel that you can put into any project you want. So we'll use this later on in another project. And until then, see what other kind of designs for wheels you can make. This isn't the only kind of shape. You can do different shapes for the treads, and you can do different numbers of treads. So experiment, play, have fun.